This video has everything that you need to know if you're planning a wedding in Sydney. I'll also be sharing some hot tips along the way, things that you haven't thought of or considered. I'll also be sharing what went on during my wedding day and the planning process. First things first, you have to think of a budget. You have to address the elephant in the room and actually talk to your partner, sit them down, ask them questions. What is our budget and what are our priorities? I highly recommend having a spreadsheet where you put all the breakdown of your costs. You really need to prioritize where to splurge your money or where you want to save money. For example, people would want to spend more money on venue and give the guests that experience, whereas they're not overly concerned about their wedding dress because you're only wearing it once. So that's just an example, just whatever is important to you. So before you even begin to start booking venue visits, research the general vibe that you're going for, or if you already have an idea of what the style of the wedding will be like, and how many people you're going to invite, just a general idea, and go from there. And when you're going into venues, you need to be prepared. You need to be armed with all your questions. I had a list of questions that I researched before I even went into venue visits. Hidden fees, to what restrictions they have in terms of music, and because the venues that are in residential area, they have certain policies saying you have to turn the music off at 10 o'clock at night. What are the fees like during peak season or off season when there are less people getting married? If you do book during off season, there is a chance that your venue will cost less. Same goes for weekdays. Most people want to get married on weekends. So if you are thinking maybe a Thursday or Friday, that's also possible and you can get it for cheaper. Next thing about venue is that you have to read the contract because there are so many things that are written in contract. You just have to sit down and spend some time reading it and decide on whether it's the venue for you or not. You can also ask questions that are deal breakers, like in person when you visit the venue, bridal suite, parking for the guests, and the decorations, what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do. And for every venue, it can look different. So when you book with a venue, you get an event coordinator who you'll be in contact with phone calls or emails to organize things ranging from seating plan to questions about guest count, also relaying questions from the vendor regarding deliveries and everything to do with the venue. To stay on track, every time I thought about something that I might want to add to my timeline, I would just write on my note app on my phone. I would just go home and write everything down. Or if writing's your thing, then you can just have a small notebook wherever you go, and anything that comes to mind, you can just write it down. I had two weddings, so one was overseas and one was here. I also had tea ceremony in the middle, so there was a lot of planning and just a lot of anxiety. And the note-taking apps really helped me stay on track. So I did a lot of research. I actually couldn't find anything or any YouTube video on wedding planning in Sydney. It was mostly just based in the US, and some of the things didn't apply. That actually was the reason for me to make this video, because there might be people in Sydney who are looking to plan a wedding, but they don't have enough resources or enough advice. So at least this way they can get some tips from this video. And I didn't feel like I was confident on what I actually knew and what I was doing. I literally had to stalk people on Instagram. I was basically just reliant on research. So I do want to help you. And if you have specific questions that I didn't answer on this video, you can always leave a comment and I'll get back to you. In this day and age, there are so many TikTok videos on every single thing. And if you watch one wedding planning video on TikTok, the algorithm will just feed you all these wedding planning TikTok videos. I used to watch a lot of them as well. But try not to get too influenced by too many opinions, because at the end of the day, it's your wedding and you don't have to do everything. You don't have to have everything, because you're going to break your bank. And this might not even be important to you or your partner. Another hot tip is using a credit card to cover all your expenses for the wedding. You can use your credit card for expenses to accrue points for your honeymoon flights if you're planning one, for your accommodation. I'm not a financial advisor, but some people do that. I personally did not think of that at all. It's only after the wedding someone told me, and I thought, that's a really good idea. So let's talk about vendors and selecting the right ones. What do you look for in a photographer or videographer? If you are already looking at people's wedding videos or photos, everyone has different styles. What kind of photos do you like, and what style is it? And go through their Instagram, go through their website, and have a look at those photos. And do you imagine yourself in those photos, and would you like the look of them? Also suss out the packages that they offer and what's your requirement. Do you need a photographer for your whole day? How many events are you having? How many hours of photography do you need? So for our wedding, we had 2 events in Sydney. So that was tea ceremony and our actual wedding. Tea ceremony, a photographer was gifted to us by my sister-in-law, and that was a great photographer. He was a one-man army, and he covered like so many photos and so beautiful photos. I recommend him to everyone. I'll also leave a link to his website in the description. And then for our actual wedding, was trying to book a couple of photographers that I really like the style of, like the dreamy, warm colors, very romantic, candid. But when I reached out, they were already booked out. This was about 8 to 9 months before the wedding. They were pretty much booked out for the next 2 years. I couldn't get the photographer that I really wanted. So that's something you want to keep in mind while looking for photographers. The earlier, the better, because if they're popular, they're going to get booked out. So our photographers were called storytellers, and I found them through Instagram, and the photos looked amazing, and that's the kind of photos I was drawn to, and I love their work. For us, we had actually written in our brief, they tell you what's important to you, what do you want covered exactly, just give us the brief. So they give you a template, and you just have to fill out what's important to you and what kind of shots you want to have. So there were 2 photographers and 1 videographer. They made us feel comfortable in front of the camera. They were laughing, joking, it was like hanging out with friends. So the tips for getting best photos, it all comes down to practice. So as I already told you, I had a wedding overseas, and then tea ceremony. We also had the pre-wedding photos that I just asked my brother to do it for me. Like, he's good at photography and we had good cameras. So he just took the pre-wedding photos for us, non-stop photos. So we already knew our angles and what looked good on camera. We both know what poses to do, and some poses we were so comfortable with that we did it all the time. And so as you practice, you can even do it with your friends. You can just take someone with you and have like a practice session. The more you do it, the more comfortable you will be in front of the camera, and more likely you are to be comfortable in your wedding day to take photos. Because you only get one chance, and I'm not trying to overwhelm you, but you only get one chance to take these photos. Just be comfortable with your poses, your timing, your body language, your angles. You can also create a list of photos, like moments to capture. So when you give them that moment to capture list, it's just easier for them to remind you as well, because you're doing your own thing, and they can go through the list and tell you, oh, let's do this shot now. Okay, let's do this shot now. So everything that you have on the list gets covered. So if you want albums or photo books, you can also ask your vendor about that. So next vendor is cake designers. To be honest, for my wedding, I had my sister-in-law make a cake for me, which I'm really thankful for. She makes great cakes, and it looks good and it tastes nice, and everyone enjoyed the cake on the day. So I really didn't have to put that much effort in finding a cake designer or what goes into it. I just kind of left it up to her. But you can go through Pinterest and pick your cake designs, your flavors that you want to have, and contact the cake designers in your area. The wedding vendors are very supportive of each other, so they tag one another in the photos. There's so many vendors that we need to cover: florists, DJs, entertainment. Okay, this is a hot tip. When you are inquiring with your vendors, give them a rough idea of how much you want to spend. Like, ask them questions like, this is how much we would like to spend. What do you think we can get with that price? Let's talk about my experience with a florist. I just sent them the photos of what I would like the flowers to look like. I just wanted it colorful and lively and not just neutrals. Let me just tell you, you don't need to have real flowers for everything, because they can add up and get really expensive. So the only real flowers I had in my wedding is for my bouquet and my husband's boutonniere. Is that how you pronounce it? And that's about it. For everything else, the decorations, the centerpieces, bouquets, I just ordered 4 flowers. They still look nice, and to be honest, the real flowers was not really in my priority, and I didn't really care for it. If it's really important to you to have fresh flowers, by all means, just go ahead and make that into your priority, that you want to spend more on the flowers. So all my decorations for the ceremony were fake flowers. I had my wedding ceremony at the chapel. The chapel actually already had a lot of flower options to pick from. I bought mine from Shein. It was really inexpensive. I bought a lot of candles from there. With those fake candles and with those pink, colorful fake flowers, I was able to really create really nice ambience in the ceremony. It was cozy, it was romantic, it was really nice. And rose petals, you can also buy fake rose petals in Shein. Just sprinkle it on the aisle and you're good to go. For my reception, and I had a stylist called NPM. So story time. I went to an Instagram page and their flowers were really beautiful and colorful and just matched my aesthetic. I gave them a budget and they were really rude. It was over email. I can't remember what exactly they said, but something along the lines of, do you really think that fresh flowers cost that much? Oh, honey, it costs more than that, or something along those lines. And I could already feel the tone in that email. So I thought, this is not the kind of vendor that I would want to work with, that is shaming her customers for having a budget. So that was just not really my vibe. So at the end, I ended up choosing NPM events. I'll put their link on the description as well. And that's exactly the budget that I gave them. And they were able to do so much with that budget, not just a bouquet. Another hot tip is actually ask the venue what they can offer for decorations. For my venue, they had those candle holders, those vintage ones. I think it's called candelabras. Half the tables, I just used those. And the remaining that were empty, I used flowers as centerpieces. So yeah, NPM were really able to do so much with that budget. And I'm glad that I went with them. Let's talk about music and DJ. Choosing a DJ was really easy. Again, I went through Instagram, went to my MC's page, and she was tagging this DJ in all of her posts. And he was very approachable and he got back to me right away. And he has a lot of experiences in weddings, especially in Highline. So I basically just used Spotify or Apple Music. I made a playlist, what songs I would like to walk down the aisle in. My ceremony was held in a chapel in Maryland. The person looking after that chapel was really helpful, and she was my DJ in the ceremony. Like, all I had to do was make a playlist in Spotify, and she would play them at the right time. For the reception, I was either given choice to have the DJ play the music or choose the music, or I could choose my own party songs. I think we did a bit of both. Some songs I chose because I knew that a lot of my guests were Nepalese. I knew what kind of songs they would vibe with. The DJ added some more songs and it was just full on party. Other entertainments people have is photo booths, performers, games, live performers. The one thing I regret not having at my wedding is the photo booth. I think it would be nice to look back who came to the wedding. So for MC, we had a lady called Christine, and she used to book meetings with us in Zoom, and she used to call us. We would FaceTime, and we would plan a run sheet together for the reception, what I want to include. She would advise me what time would be better, or what sequence would be better, or if I want to change anything, she would be open to that. Um, so she was very organized, and everything went smoothly. My celebrant was the best. She just had a lot of experience, and we just felt like she really cared about how our ceremony went. We're not just another couple that are getting married. She tried to customize it as much as she could. She had us there for a rehearsal, which was really beneficial because we did pick up some stuff that we had not planned out. She planned the thing to the T, so everything went exactly the same way it did in the rehearsal, and everything went smoothly. Walking to the ceremony, I knew that she would handle everything, and that was a peace of mind. I had my friends get there earlier and set up the ceremony with those flowers and candles, and I was really grateful to have friends who wanted to help. I got married last year, June of 2023, and it was winter. I picked my ceremony as a chapel because I really wanted that indoor space. The heaters were on, so all my guests were comfortable. We were comfortable. I could wear my dress, I would not freeze. And if it did rain, I didn't need to think about plan B because we're already indoors. So that was a plus. Once you choose your venue and book in, put in a deposit, and that day is your wedding day, and you can plan everything around that. I had found a makeup artist that I really liked and who I wanted to book with, but she was already booked out on that date. So I've noticed the wedding industry in Australia is very supportive of one another, and they would gladly recommend someone else if they're not available on the day. So that's what happened with my makeup artist. So I booked a trial session with her. And this is another hot tip, always have a trial. It's like buying your wedding dress without even trying it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, see what it looks like with a white top, all the lighting, and I could not recommend this enough because that's what happened with me. I had a photo of a bride from Pinterest, and it was such a nice photo. I loved the look of the makeup on her. That makeup looked really good on her, but my features are completely different, my color's different. My makeup artist put the same kind of makeup on me. I just looked really pale, and even with my hairstyle I wanted a middle part for some reason. And then I still liked what I looked like, but I made some changes on the wedding day. I told her, let's do a side part, let's put on some more blush, let's use colorful lipstick, because the lipstick that I was wearing on the trial really gave me that dull look, which I didn't like and which I didn't want for my wedding. So I didn't realize these things before the trial. It's not just for me, like my makeup artist learned a lot from that as well, because so on the trial it took really long for her to put my eyelashes because I could not handle full false lashes. So she actually had to cut it and customize it and put it cluster by cluster as opposed to the whole lashes. She knew what kind of eyes she was working with, and I was really comfortable the whole day, the whole night. My eyes weren't stinging. So I want to compare the photos of trial and my actual wedding day, and look how different that looks. Even if it's like subtle, it makes a big difference. So for bridal dress shopping, to start with, I did not even know what kind of dress I liked for my wedding day or what would suit me. I recommend definitely look around in few shops. Don't just go in one shop and just commit. I was researching for some affordable shops, and I came across a shop called Oli Cassini. They had one store in Melbourne and one in Sydney, so I really wanted to go and check it out. I tried a few dresses on. I tried a few and I fell in love with one, and I just knew that this is the one that I want to get married in. For alterations, I did not have to alter my dress a lot. The what do you call it? The buckle where there's a button and then you put the dress up so it's not a long train. So you can dance in it, move around in it, but the train is hooked up. There's a term for it. Yeah, so I got that done in a local place. So I did ask for a bit of discount and she gladly gave it to me. So that was good. That's another hot tip. Like, don't be afraid to haggle. The worst thing that's gonna happen is they're gonna say no, and that's fine. When choosing your bridal party, also keep in mind the expense because the more people you have in your bridal party, the more you're gonna spend. The more you have to organize. I came across this story of this girl who had six bridesmaids. This was somewhere based in America. She had six bridesmaids or 10 bridesmaids, something like that. Six sounds normal, 10 sounds a lot. So I think it's 10. um, they were just doing their own thing. No one was helping her. No one would even help her fix her dress or put on her dress. You know how it's so hard if it's like big dress. And on top of that, they didn't mind the time. They were just taking selfies. And I knew from the get go that, I just don't want to deal with too many people because I felt like I would already be stressed. But yeah, two or four, that sounds reasonable to me. But you don't have to buy everything for the bridal party. If they're closer to you, you can just ask them to buy their own dress and just cover for their hair and makeup, or you can tell them to get their hair and makeup done themselves and just buy them like a dress or shoes or something of that sort. And if they're your true friend, they'll get it. Weddings are expensive and you don't have to do everything by yourselves, and they'll understand. A hot tip here is to really trust your gut while getting your bridal party together. Before asking them, just really think about it, and what would the wedding day look like with them there for the whole day. And just don't have toxic people and people that are not that supportive in your bridal party, because that is going to make or going to ruin your day. I have heard so many stories, like literally so many stories of people having fallouts with their bridesmaids, their friends, whatever it is. We all have family dramas, you know what I mean? Like everyone has them. If that's something that you're worried about, just don't be in that situation. Same goes for the groomsmen. You really have to sit down and talk to your husband and delegate some tasks to do with groomsmen and how he's going to organize his day. And not saying all the men, but most men are not very organized. So even if you have to give them a timeline, you do that. Just tell them this is all you have to do. You have to get dressed by this time, things like that. In most scenarios, guys are not overly obsessed with the wedding planning. It's usually the girls. I don't know what that is. I feel like we just work great with details, whereas men, they just want to show up and they just want to marry you. Like that's all they want. They just want to marry you and spend the rest of their life with you. That's all they care about. The color of napkins, the color of flowers, I don't think they care. So I delegated tasks to my husband to book transport, get his groomsmen sorted out, fill out the paperwork, that sort of thing. You have to fill out notice of intended marriage before the wedding. Let's talk about accessories. Bring a backup jewelry with you in case something breaks, because it's wedding day, anything can happen. I cannot stress this enough. Shoes is the most important thing after the dress. It needs to be really comfy. I spent a lot on shoes because I knew that I would be on my feet the whole day. I had to walk a lot in it, to stand, I had to dance in it. So I knew that I needed good quality, comfortable shoes. So I didn't mind spending a bit of money on that. And I knew that I was gonna wear it's just white shoes, it's just white shoes with pearls. I would wear it again. So I did not mind spending a bit on it. For invitation design, I just used Canva. There are lots of examples and you can just copy that, put on your details, do a bit of research on what to include on invitation designs, I just sent out digital printouts. Seating chart is something that you plan out with your event coordinator of the venue. For example, for mine, we had 10 people on one table. So I did a rough draft of who I wanted in certain tables, like a rough draft, and then I sent it to the event coordinator so you can have a bit of time to organize all those things. You could also say send save the date cards. I personally didn't do that because that was just an extra thing that I had to do, and I just sent out invitations early. But you could do that if your relatives are overseas or something. Some people that you really want in your wedding, you can send out save the dates, and that can help them plan things out ahead of time. So it's your wedding day. Obviously, it's the most special day of your life, but you'll be surprised how people are not that excited as you are, understandably. But when you're constantly thinking about it, obsessing over it, planning every detail, that becomes your whole life for a certain period of time. Don't expect your partner to always talk about it, or don't expect your family members to always be excited about your wedding day, because there are other things in life, and obviously people who support you will support you no matter what. It's also important to delegate tasks. Find your companions in a planning that you trust, your close friends, your sister, your brother, your husband to be, and delegate some tasks to them so it's not all on you. If you really need to be in control, and you can just always check back with them to see what's happening with that, and get updates. Oftentimes it's overlooked what happens after the wedding. So just be prepared. Just plan who is going to drop you off after the wedding. Either you're going to your own place, or if you're going to a hotel, just make sure there's someone already allocated who's going to drop you off from A to B after the wedding. Make sure you make a run sheet of the transport as well. How are you going to, if you're getting ready at home, how are you going to get to the ceremony, from ceremony to reception if it's a different location? In my case, I was getting ready in a hotel. I just wanted some space, and while I was getting ready, to just keep my mind together, have no distractions, I booked a hotel, and we went there the night before. My bridesmaid and her partner also booked another room in the same hotel so that they're not late for the next day, which was really thoughtful of them. So the day started at 5 o'clock in the morning. So from the hotel to photos in a park, to then the ceremony, then to reception, then back to the hotel. So what does it look like for you? And what about your bridal party? And are there any photos you want to take in the hotel? You want your family to be there, then how your family getting there? Just like think about everything regarding transport, and just like write it down. I wrote it in Excel. I had exact time, and I gave my family members not the exact time, a little bit earlier than that, so that they're not running late. And then I got my husband to double check it, just to set a fresh eyes to see, does this work out, is this efficient, is there anything missing, is there going to be a problem if we don't do this or that, just a fresh set of eyes to go over it again, so everything is seamless and smooth on the day. I know a lot of people do DIY weddings in America. I don't think it's much common here in Australia, although I do know some people from some podcasts hiring a venue that doesn't provide anything, and you have to bring every single thing, like fork, like cutlery, tablecloth, and just everything, like glasses and everything. You might get the value for your money, but getting all those stuff together and DIYing a lot of stuff can take a lot of time and effort. Again, it depends on what kind of person you are. Me, I'm not great with DIY stuff. I just bought things or just let someone else do it because there were just a lot going on, and I knew that I can't do everything. Also, for RSVPs, you're going to be chasing it until like 2 weeks till your wedding. At least in my case, that happened. And give enough time for your guests to get back to you, and put a deadline, not just 2 weeks before the wedding, just put like 1 month before the wedding, just so it gives you enough time to chase up all the RSVPs or dietary restrictions, things like that. Then even if they're late, it's not that late. Do you know what I mean? For our first dance, we didn't have any lessons. We just learned it off YouTube. In this day and age, YouTube has everything. So we just learned it off YouTube and we just practiced a lot. And that was just fun in itself. You know, we had a lot of fun dancing, practicing. So I would highly recommend that. I know it's an obvious, but don't forget to buy your wedding bands. When you're making your run sheet for the ceremony or reception, you can also add your personal touches or cultural things. It just makes it more special. It's really easy to lose sight of what you're doing and why you're doing all this. The main thing is you're getting married to the person you love and have all your family members and have all your people that you love witness it. That's just something really special. Amidst all the chaos of wedding planning, it's really easy to get lost and get overwhelmed. You just have to remember to take frequent breaks from wedding planning. If you need to detox from social media, do that. If you have a lot going on in your mind, just journal, just do a brain dump and just put everything that's going in your mind on paper. You'll think clearer. Spend some time with your partner, just connect with them. And for next week's video, I'm going to talk all about my wedding day and what went on and what went wrong, even after all this planning. So I'm going to post that sometime next week. So be sure to subscribe. Yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching.